Hello. Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the court of the Edijester. How you doing? Tis Monday. Can you believe the weeks are going so fast now that we're hammering towards the most waste of time situation, which is Christmas. So I imagine you'll be starting thinking about mince pies and trees and things very shortly. So what have I got for you today? Well, we're going to look at the life cycle of transgender ideation. Now, our duty group, run by Keith, who some of you may already be aware of, has been in this fight for a very long time indeed, and has plenty to tell us about what the situation is and how things are going in terms of what happens to young people when they get caught in the trap of gender identity and trans and all the stuff comes with it. It's very rare that they do just a bit of it. They jump in the pool, don't they? They're completely soaked in it and saturated it. So Keith has produced this documentation, which has been with us for some while, but it's worthwhile repeating what it is because I've got new people watching now, and also there may be those of you out there who are not aware of it. So links to this are in the doobras as usual. You can go and have a look at that. And so please do share it if you could. Share or comment, which helps get the algorithm going. Also, if you want to become a warrior teacher, we're starting in October. Just let me know. Use the link downstairs. Click, send us your details, and we'll have a chinwag. Okay? So let's get started with what we're talking about here. It's called the life cycle of transgender ideation. And I think this is an important piece that allows those that don't understand what's going on to get a handle on it. So we'll go through it, but there's lots of it. So enough for you to have a good read, get yourself a coffee. But as you can see there, we begin with an image that says life cycle of transgender ideation there, which is really identifying what is going on and what exactly happens when somebody gets themselves caught in this particular situation. So, Keith says here, it can help to visualize what happens to a young person affected by thinking of themselves as transgender. The above schematic, which is the picture that you just saw, shows that for a child to start thinking of themselves as transgender, to be captured, they must both be susceptible to the idea and be indoctrinated. So two states there, susceptibility and being indoctrinated, being susceptible, being indoctrinated. There are a wide variety of factors which can make a child susceptible to the indoctrination that can lead them into thinking that they are transgender. The following list is not exhaustive, but it includes the most common factors, often called comorbidities of gender dysphoria. Now, the first thing here is, and Keith would agree with me on this, that gender dysphoria is not actually a real thing. It's made up nonsense. But nevertheless, he's listed here what we've seen as some of the particular statuses or particular modes of being that an individual might be in order to be susceptible. Prior trauma of some kind. We know this from Hannah Barnes' book. We know this from the history now. Bullying, anxiety, depression, homosexuality. Homosexuality is an obvious one because it does literally trans the gay away. Neurodiversity. Keith and I don't know where he is on neurodiversity, but I shall look forward to talking to him about it because I think neurodiversity is a load of cobblers. I think it's a tool of queer theory. It's possible that Keith may agree. I'll ask him. Discomfort with puberty, eating disorders, autism, ADHD, sexual abuse, giftedness, non-conformity with sex stereotypes, and disability. That last one there is particularly worth being concerned about, as disability, and particularly disability rights, has now been captured just as badly as, for example, the NHS or gay rights or anything else. Other signs to be aware of that can make a child susceptible are spending too much time online, being in a friendship group that includes others with transgender ideation, anime and furry fandom. We're seeing this attachment to anime and furry fandom as something that appears often in these cases with young people who are captured. So he talks about indoctrination next. It is important to note that children who will not think of themselves as transgender without it being presented to them as a valid or even likely option to explain their natural feelings of discomfort. In recent years, the whole of society has effectively become one huge machine for the indoctrination of children into transgenderism. What can be termed the institutional capture by gender ideology has left no space, no safe space. Right from the promotion of gender identity by the United Nations all the way into primary schools, societies is pushing the completely unfounded notion that people who say they are transgender have some special human attribute worthy of recognition and protection in law. For adolescents, being transgender is a social identity, and it has been likened to the goth social identities of prior generations. This is understandable now. The concept of social identity. There are a lot of people and organizations who have a vested interest in there being such a thing as your identity. There isn't. It's cobblers, and there you have to be sold it because it's an exercise in branding. So the idea that you have an identity is in order to subvert your potential when it comes to turning your personality into a character. An identity is a branding exercise, a marketing exercise. It's just nonsense. Whereas your character is something innate that you have to work on. An identity is an externalization. It's an external facing thing. Whereas character is all about reflection, all about creation of the best you. Yeah. So the identity idea itself is also nonsense. Resilience. Something else that I'm not fond of, right? The best thing that can happen to a young person presented with the idea you might be trans is to dismiss it with the contempt that idea demands. Instead of promoting gender ideology, schools and wider society need to be promoting critical thinking, skills, and practical self-improvement customized to the child's susceptibilities. Parents have a role too in helping their children have the confidence to resist and dismiss daft ideas, like the idea that one can become the opposite sex. Now, this is an interesting one because resilience is thrown about a lot, and I'm now of the opinion that resilience is not good enough for various reasons. Resilience implies being buffeted, doesn't it? It implies you stand against something. I would much prefer to think about people moving forward. So I've had this discussion with the warrior teachers. I think resistance is not where it's at. I would go with indomitability. That's just me. You can tell me what you think in the Dubris. So, I mean, let me know, because obviously Keith spent time putting this together. It's an important resource for parents in particular, but also those who are asking what is going on. But I would go with resilience. And there's links there to read more. So Keith has given us the complete picture here. Transgender ideation. Unfortunately, if a child or young person is ill-equipped to dismiss the crazy idea that they might be transgender, they run the risk of adopting the idea as an explanation for their discomfort or angst. Fundamentally, thinking of oneself as transgender is a delusion. A delusion is a belief that is clearly false and that indicates an abnormality in the affected person's content of thought. The false belief is not accounted for by the person's cultural or religious background or his or her level of intelligence. We call it transgender ideation because it has similarities with suicidal ideation. Both ideations are false beliefs that a course of action will solve perceived problems, and both result in extreme self-harm. In one case, obviously, that extreme self-harm is permanent. Now, there's read more links to all of this. It goes then through rumination, gender dysphoria, etc., etc., etc. I would bookmark this as a resource for those that want to understand more, but it certainly makes sense for any parent who is presented with a child that is saying, I'm connected to this now, I want to be part of it, or has been groomed online or perhaps groomed in school by a teacher or by a friend. This could be a very useful resource indeed. The best thing or the best advice that I can give after all these years is, as a parent, when a child says that they are this, is to not in any way go along with it. And I know that's very hard to do, being a parent in this situation. It's heartbreaking. So a good resource that I thought was worth highlighting again, because there are now many more people asking questions than there were 6 months ago. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So this is the type of thing that you can send to people and say, have a read of this. It's not the Jester, so it's balanced for a start. It isn't filled with madness and lunacy and screaming and ranting and me just shouting at people and calling them foolish, which would be mild in my case. This is a real resource worth bookmarking. So I suggest that you do. On that point, I'll leave you to it. All right, so go and have a read, and you'll find our duty on Twitter. Links, as usual, in the Dubris. You have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.